When Marcus found the impossible machine, Marcus Chen had always been different from other kids his age. While his classmates spent their afternoons playing video games or hanging out at the mall, Marcus preferred dismantling old electronics in his grandfather's workshop. The musty basement beneath the Chen family home had become his sanctuary, filled with decades of accumulated gadgets, spare parts, and half-finished inventions that his grandfather had collected before his passing. 3 years ago, on this particular rainy Thursday afternoon, Marcus was deeper in the basement than he had ever ventured before. He had been searching for specific components to build a new radio transmitter, when he noticed something odd about the far wall. The concrete seemed newer than the rest, and when he tapped it with his knuckles, it sounded hollow. His curiosity immediately sparked into overdrive. Marcus grabbed a small sledgehammer from his grandfather's tool collection and carefully began chipping away at the wall. After an hour of patient work, he had created a hole large enough to peer through. What he saw made his heart race with excitement and confusion. Behind the wall was a hidden chamber, and in the center of that chamber sat something that definitely did not belong in a suburban basement. The object was roughly the size of a basketball, but its surface was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. It appeared to be made of a crystalline material that shifted between deep blue and silver, with veins of what looked like liquid light running through its structure. The entire object pulsed with a gentle, rhythmic glow that reminded Marcus of a sleeping heartbeat. After enlarging the hole enough to squeeze through, Marcus carefully approached the mysterious device. As he got closer, he could hear a faint humming sound, almost like a lullaby. The air around the object felt charged with electricity, making the hair on his arms stand up. Without thinking, Marcus reached out and touched the surface. The moment his fingers made contact, the world exploded into light and sound. Holographic displays materialized around him, showing symbols and diagrams that hurt his eyes to look at directly. The humming grew louder, more complex, until it almost sounded like voices speaking in a language he had never heard but somehow understood on a deep, instinctual level. Marcus tried to pull his hand away, but found he could not. The device had somehow bonded with him, and information began flooding into his mind. He saw vast star charts, technical specifications for technologies beyond human comprehension, and most disturbing of all, images of entire solar systems being consumed by a spreading darkness that devoured everything in its path. The visions lasted only seconds, but they left Marcus gasping and shaking. As the immediate shock wore off, he realized that the holographic displays were still active, and they seemed to be waiting for his input. One particular symbol pulsed more brightly than the others, and Marcus instinctively understood that it was some kind of communication protocol. Against his better judgment, Marcus activated the symbol. The basement filled with a warm, golden light, and suddenly he was no longer alone. A figure materialized before him, translucent and shimmering like a mirage. It was vaguely humanoid but clearly not human, with elongated limbs and features that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. "Greetings, young one," the figure spoke, its voice echoing directly in Marcus's mind rather than through his ears. "I am Zaraka, and I have been waiting for someone like you for a very long time. Do not be afraid. I mean you no harm." Marcus found his voice, though it cracked with nervousness. "What are you? What is this thing? How are you in my grandfather's basement?" Zarika's form seemed to smile, though it was difficult to tell with their shifting features. "I am what you might call a refugee, though that term barely captures the scope of our situation. This device was placed here by my people many years ago, when we first detected the signs of what was coming. We knew that when the time came, humanity would need a choice. What choice? What's coming? The holographic displays around them changed, showing Marcus images that made his blood run cold. He saw the darkness he had glimpsed before, but now he understood what it truly was. It was not just consuming solar systems, it was unraveling the very fabric of space and time itself, leaving nothing but empty void in its wake. The dissolution, Zaraka explained. It is an ancient force that feeds on the energy of living worlds. It has already consumed 17 galaxies, and it is heading directly for this region of space. Your solar system will be reached in approximately 72 hours. Marcus felt the world spinning around him. 72 hours. That's impossible. Something that big, that destructive, our scientists would have detected it years ago. The dissolution exists partially outside normal space-time. It only becomes fully visible when it is ready to consume its target. By then, it is far too late for conventional escape. The displays showed Marcus various worlds that had tried to fight the dissolution. Advanced civilizations with weapons that could destroy planets had thrown everything they had at the approaching darkness, only to be absorbed without even slowing it down. The images were horrifying and beautiful at the same time, entire species choosing to face extinction with dignity rather than flee. But you did flee, Marcus said, not accusingly but with curiosity. Not fled strategically repositioned. There are places the dissolution cannot reach, dimensions where its influence has no power. My people discovered how to access these safe zones, but the technology required is beyond what any single species can master alone. That is why we seeded devices like this throughout the galaxy, hoping to find allies who could help us perfect the process. Marcus stared at the crystalline device, beginning to understand the magnitude of what he was being asked to consider. You want me to help you move entire planets to another dimension? Not just any planets. Your world is special, Marcus Chen. Humanity possesses something that most species lacked the ability to adapt and innovate under extreme pressure. We have observed your species for centuries, watching as you repeatedly overcame challenges that would destroy others. You are survivors, and survivors are exactly what the universe needs right now. The displays showed Marcus images of other worlds that had been successfully relocated. They were beautiful, thriving civilizations that had found new homes in dimensions where the dissolution could not reach them. But the technology involved was staggering in its complexity. I'm just a kid, Marcus said, feeling overwhelmed. I build radio transmitters and fix old computers. I don't know anything about moving planets or fighting cosmic disasters. The device has already bonded with you, Zaraka replied gently. It has been analyzing your neural patterns, your problem-solving abilities, your capacity for innovation. You have exactly the kind of mind we need, someone who can think outside conventional parameters and find solutions that others miss. Marcus looked down at his hand, still connected to the device. He could feel something changing in his mind, new pathways opening up, knowledge that had not been there before beginning to take root. It was not overwhelming, but it was definitely present. What would happen to everyone else? My family, my friends, everyone on Earth. If the process works correctly, they would not even notice the transition. The dimensional shift would be instantaneous from their perspective. They would simply wake up in a new universe, safe from the dissolution but otherwise unchanged. And if it doesn't work, Zaraka's form dimmed slightly. Then they face the same fate as all the other worlds the dissolution has consumed. At least this way, they have a chance. Marcus closed his eyes, trying to process everything he had learned. The rational part of his mind insisted that this was impossible, that he was having some kind of breakdown brought on by stress and too much time alone in the basement, but the device humming under his palm felt real, and the knowledge flowing into his mind was too detailed and complex to be a hallucination. How long do I have to decide? The process must begin within the next 6 hours if we are to complete it before the dissolution arrives. Once we start, there will be no turning back. Marcus thought about his parents upstairs, probably wondering where he was by now. He thought about his little sister Emma, who was probably doing homework at the kitchen table. He thought about his friends at school, his teachers, the millions of people going about their daily lives with no idea that their entire existence was about to be threatened. If I say yes, what exactly do I have to do? The displays changed again, showing Marcus a complex sequence of procedures that he would need to follow. The device would handle most of the technical aspects, but it needed a human operator to guide the process and make the critical decisions about where to relocate Earth. You would essentially become the navigator for your entire planet, Zaraka explained. It is a tremendous responsibility, but one that I believe you are capable of handling. Marcus stared at the swirling patterns on the displays, feeling the weight of an impossible choice settling on his shoulders. Save the world by moving it to another dimension, or let everyone he had ever known face extinction. When he put it that way, there really was no choice at all. Okay, he said quietly, I'll do it. The device pulsed brighter, and Marcus felt a surge of energy flow through him. The holographic displays rearranged themselves into what he recognized as a control interface, though far more sophisticated than anything humans had ever created. The process will take approximately 4 hours, Zaraka explained. During that time, you will need to remain connected to the device. I will guide you through each step, but ultimately, the success of the operation depends on your intuition and decision-making abilities. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling more scared and excited than he had ever been in his life. Let's save the world. The planet that learned to travel the first hour of the process was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. The device had expanded its connection with him, and he could feel it reaching out across the entire planet, mapping every living thing, every structure, every molecule of air and water. It was like being connected to the nervous system of the Earth itself. Through the device, Marcus could sense the approaching dissolution. It was still hours away, but its presence was like a growing shadow on the edge of perception. The knowledge that had been implanted in his mind helped him understand what he was seeing. Reality itself was beginning to fray at the edges as the cosmic destroyer drew closer. The dimensional calculations are complete, Zaraka announced. We have identified a suitable target, Universe 1, where the physical laws are nearly identical to your own, but where the dissolution has no presence. The transition will place Earth in the same relative position to your Sun, maintaining all the conditions necessary for life. Marcus watched as the holographic displays showed him images of the destination universe. It looked exactly like home, but something about it felt different, more vibrant somehow. The stars seemed brighter, and there was an energy in the space between worlds that did not exist in their current reality. Will we be alone there? Marcus asked. Not alone. Several other refugee worlds have already been relocated to that dimensional space. Your planet will be joining a small but growing alliance of species that have escaped the dissolution. The device pulsed, and Marcus felt a new sensation of the minds touching his briefly, alien but not hostile. He realized that he was making contact with representatives of the other relocated worlds, and they were welcoming Earth to their sanctuary dimension. Beginning Phase 2 of the transition, Zarika announced Marcus felt the device's connection to Earth intensify dramatically. The basement around him began to shimmer, and he could see ghostly images of other locations overlaid on his vision. He was simultaneously in the basement and in classrooms, offices, homes, and wilderness areas all around the world. The device was creating a network that encompassed the entire planet. Phase 2 complete. Beginning dimensional anchor establishment. This was the most critical part of the process. Marcus had to guide the device as it created anchor points in the target universe, establishing a stable pathway for Earth's transition. The mathematics involved was staggering, but somehow his enhanced mind was able to process the calculations and make the necessary adjustments as the anchor points solidified. Marcus became aware of something unexpected. The process was not just moving Earth, it was changing it. The dimensional transition was awakening dormant potentials in the planet's electromagnetic field, and by extension, in the life forms that called it home. Zarika, something's happening to the people. I can sense changes in human brain activity across the globe. This is normal, the alien replied. The dimensional energy has a tendency to accelerate evolution, particularly in species that are already on the verge of significant development. Humanity has been approaching a natural evolutionary leap for decades. The transition is simply catalyzing that process. Marcus could feel it happening to himself as well. His mind was becoming more flexible, more capable of processing multiple, complex concepts simultaneously. He could sense the thoughts and emotions of people around the world, not invasively, but like a gentle background hum of shared consciousness. Beginning Phase 3-dimensional translation initiation. The world around Marcus began to blur and shift. He could see through walls, through the Earth itself, watching as massive energies built up in the planet's core. The device was using Earth's own magnetic field as a launching mechanism, preparing to push the entire world through the dimensional barrier. Translation in 60 seconds, Zarika announced. Marcus, you need to maintain focus on the destination coordinates. Any deviation during the transition could result in catastrophic displacement. Marcus gripped the device tighter, feeling the weight of 8 billion lives depending on his concentration. The holographic displays showed him the exact pathway Earth would take through the dimensional barrier, and he held that image firmly in his mind. 30 seconds. Around the world, people were beginning to notice something unusual. The sky was taking on an odd shimmer, and sensitive individuals were reporting strange dreams and visions. But for most, life continued normally, unaware that their reality was about to fundamentally change. 10 seconds. Marcus felt the device reach its maximum power output. The basement filled with blinding light, and for a moment, he thought he might be torn apart by the forces flowing through him. Translation ... now. The universe blinked by for an instant that lasted forever. Marcus existed in all dimensions simultaneously. He saw infinite versions of Earth, infinite possibilities for humanity's future, all collapsing into a single point of pure potential. Then reality reasserted itself, and he was back in the basement, but everything had changed. The air tasted different, cleaner, more energized. The light streaming through the basement windows had a quality he had never seen before, and when he looked up, he could see stars that were not quite in the same positions they had been before. Translation successful, Zarika announced that the alien's form was now more solid, more present than it had been before. Welcome to your new universe, Marcus Chen. Marcus disconnected from the device, feeling strangely empty without its constant presence in his mind. But the knowledge it had given him remained, and he understood that this was only the beginning of his journey. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now you learn." The other refugee species have been developing new technologies, new ways of thinking, that take advantage of the unique properties of this dimensional space. Humanity's presence here will accelerate that process exponentially. As if to demonstrate this point, Marcus heard his sister Emma calling from upstairs. But her voice sounded different, stronger, more confident. When he emerged from the basement, he found her floating 3 feet off the ground, surrounded by small objects that were orbiting around her like planets around a star. "Marcus," she exclaimed excitedly, "look what I can do." I was doing homework, and suddenly I could feel the pencils and books and everything like they were part of me. Is this normal? Marcus looked around and saw that similar scenes were playing out in homes across the neighborhood. People were discovering new abilities, new ways of interacting with the world around them. The dimensional transition had indeed awakened something in humanity. "It's going to be okay, Emma," Marcus said, though he was still trying to process everything himself. "We're somewhere safe now, and we're going to learn how to use these new abilities." Over the following days, Marcus established regular contact with the other refugee species through the device. He learned that Earth's arrival had been eagerly anticipated, as humanity's reputation for innovation and adaptation had spread throughout the Refugee Alliance. The other species, the Kethany, with their mastery of energy manipulation, the Zephyrians, with their ability to communicate across vast distances, the Crystalline Collective, with their living technology, all welcomed humanity as equals and began sharing their knowledge freely. But the peaceful integration was not destined to last. On the 5th day after the transition, the device's warning systems activated, and Marcus found himself once again in contact with Zaraka. "We have a problem," the alien announced. "The dissolution was not the only threat in your original universe. There are other hostile forces, and they have noticed Earth's disappearance. They are searching for the dimensional pathway we used." Marcus felt his heart sink. "You mean they can follow us here?" "Not exactly, but they have their own methods of dimensional travel, and they view the Refugee Alliance as a threat to their expansion. They call themselves the Hegemony, and they believe that all lesser species should serve them or be eliminated." The holographic displays showed Marcus images of the Hegemony Force's massive ships that looked like they were carved from black stone, crewed by beings that seemed to be made of living shadow. They were systematically hunting down refugee worlds, not to destroy them, but to capture them and force their inhabitants into slavery. "How long do we have?" Marcus asked. "Their scouts have already found traces of our dimensional pathway. We estimate they will locate this universe within 2 weeks." Marcus felt the familiar weight of impossible responsibility settling on his shoulders once again. "What do? We fight," Zaraka said simply. "But not as individual species, struggling alone. The Refugee Alliance was always meant to be more than just a hiding place. We are building something new, a coalition of civilizations that can stand against the darkness and protect the innocent, and humanity's role in this. You are the key, Marcus. Your species' ability to adapt and innovate, combined with the enhanced abilities that the dimensional transition has awakened, makes you natural leaders in this fight. But first, you must master your new capabilities." Over the following week, Marcus threw himself into learning everything he could about the Refugee Alliance's technology, and the enhanced abilities that humans were developing. He discovered that the dimensional energy had not just given people telekinetic powers, it had fundamentally altered human consciousness, allowing them to interface directly with technology and even with each other on a level that transcended normal communication. Emma had become one of the most skilled practitioners of the new abilities, able to manipulate matter at the molecular level and even perceive events occurring in other dimensions. She insisted on helping Marcus prepare for the coming conflict, despite his concerns about putting his little sister in danger. "I'm not your little sister anymore," she told him one evening as they practiced with alien training equipment in the basement. "None of us are the same people we were before. The transition changed us, made us into something new. And that something new has responsibilities." Marcus knew she was right. Across the world, humans were organizing themselves into groups, sharing knowledge and abilities in ways that would have been impossible before the dimensional transition. They were becoming something more than human, but still fundamentally human in their determination to protect those they cared about. The hegemony scouts arrived exactly 2 weeks after Zareka's warning. Marcus felt their presence the moment. They breached the dimensional barrier, cold, hungry intelligence that viewed all other life as resources to be consumed. "They're here," he announced to the assembled Alliance representatives. "What's the plan?" "We show them that refugees can bite back," replied Kethviewer, the Kethany warrior who had become Marcus's closest alien ally. "Your species' arrival has given us new capabilities we never imagined. It's time to use them." Marcus activated the device one final time, feeling its connection spread not just across Earth, but to all the refugee worlds in their dimensional sanctuary. For the first time since the crisis began, he felt truly ready for whatever came next. The hegemony had come expecting to find scattered, defenseless refugees. Instead, they were about to encounter humanity enhanced, united, and absolutely determined to protect their new home. The war for the multiverse was about to begin, and Marcus Chen, the 14-year-old boy who had accidentally saved his world, was about to become the leader humanity needed for the battles ahead.